kind introduction, and also to Frank. I am able to come here personally to thank Sun Life for being part of this global movement from Asia, which was originally designed to end poverty in our country through a public-private partnership. And our role from the start was simply to facilitate that. We realized that we have there's no rhyme or reason why a country like the Philippines should remain poor. Very fertile land, very rich natural resources, very talented people. And that is something that a lot of CEOs see. But somehow, 350 years of conditioning, that was almost Pavlovian. You know, that we were only good as laborers in the field or rank and file employees. Just somehow, just killed whatever entrepreneurial spirit we had. And it has always been a pattern of our people, just a pattern of dependence because of patronage politics, because of also charity and dole out. And so when there was an opportunity for us to really take the initiative from a different perspective, we wanted to really think out of the box, because the old ways did not work for us. It did not improve the lives of our people. And so the first step was for us to get connected. Just like what Frank said, that those in the small villages are forgotten. It has always been that pattern. The strong always leave the weak behind. And the poor who have a chance to get a better education, to achieve success, accumulate wealth, oftentimes forget the poor, the many others, thousands of others who were left behind. And so it has always been a pattern of being out, wanting to be ahead of the pack, and not realizing that our goal should be not just to leave everyone behind and cross the finish line alone, but for us to bring as many people to cross the finish line. And there's some bit of history and nostalgia with seeing Andrew here, because at some point in your organization's life, you also work with SIDA and LGSP. And LGSP was our partner in Mindanao when we started to enter the Muslim areas in Maguindanao. In fact, one of our first volunteers was the wife of the mayor of Buluan, who was killed during the Maguindanao massacre, including our teacher in our preschool. But nevertheless, while we are still going through our process, we realize that poverty has been with us and it has brutalized our people, particularly the male. And we have warlordism just as part of our tribal way of maintaining control and power. But we realize that the response, the solution to our problem will not come from government alone, because it has always been a pattern of dependence on politics and religion. And we always depended everything on government and laid everything on them. And while in our initial discussion with the LGSP, we talk about good governance, but my focus has always been about good citizenship, because a weak people will always choose weak leaders. And good citizenship will only come from a deep love of country. That Singapore was at the root of Singapore's success. That is at the heart also of the success of Japan and Korea, which was absent in ours, because we always thought that that love of country was about eating adobo and dancing the tinikling. it is, but we perpetuated, you know, a pattern of life that just deepened our poverty. One, I call this the 3 M's of poverty. One is that people who live at the survival mode because of the scarcity environment would be migratory, and so the homeless and the hungry in the countryside because of the failure of social justice, where 70% of our people are still landless, and we have not corrected, the scandal of history when the King of Spain took over all our land and just gave ownership to a few families. And so we have become, the poor would migrate to the urban areas and become informal settlers or squatters, and living hand-to-mouth existence, which we call isang kahig, isang tupak. And those who are educated, finding not much in the local market in terms of career opportunities, would leave the country. But then the poor who come to Manila would also perpetuate a culture of mendicancy. So we see beggars and scavengers all over the big cities in our country, which when Filipinos come to Canada, there's almost 500,000 here. You don't see a Filipino scavenger or a squatter or a beggar in the streets of Canada. Not even in the United States, where there's more than 4 million of them. So you realize, seeing all of this, that it is not in our cultural DNA to be a loser, to be a beggar, or to be a squatter. So I started to see early that the problem of poverty, before it is economic, was a behavioral problem. Because when a human being, when a Filipino is brutalized by poverty, he also becomes predatory. So migratory, and he becomes mercenary, particularly the male. And so 95% of our criminals are men. Our rebels in the countryside are men. Our most corrupt politicians are men. But most poverty interventions focus on women. If the men are the problem, why do we see the women as the solution? And when you have also a galloping poverty population, where people are ill-equipped to be able to really take responsibility for the families, because to me, one really very explosive situation was in the slums, is you have a fertile woman and a drunk husband. So again, just so many of these social issues that were left unaddressed. Because again, even in our politics, it's also about winning elections and staying in power. So, but we realized we had to begin somewhere. And so I began by really just focusing also on the kind of a very clear vision for Gawad Kalinga. It started as a personal journey, trying to help define my being Filipino and my being Christian, because we practiced Christianity and democracy badly. That the only Catholic country in Asia was also the most corrupt. And it was not a legacy that I wanted to pass on to my children. So I started to really also grow in my spirituality of nation building, which is to grow a deep love of country and of my people as a way of honoring God. That I wanted to just prove to myself and to the rest of the world that God did not make a mistake when He made me a Filipino.